Our speaker today is an old friend of ours. He fraternity brother of my nephew and my son. Got to spend some time with Jason last summer when his uncle, Governor Wayne Mixon, died. Wayne's wife, Margie, by the way, has moved out of the house and is living the life at Red Hills, right? So we wish her well. Jason's mom and dad are from Port St. Joe. Mama is a wonderful lady, and his dad's a fine gentleman. If you got to know them, you'd understand that. Jason represents a little bit of Leon County, kind of the southwest corner over Lake Talquin area, right?
Yes, sir. District
7 in the House of Representatives. Jason is an accomplished businessman on his own. His family has a gas company in Port St. Joe, as well as storage units. And Jason sits on the board of Triumph, Triumph, Florida?
Triumph Gulf Coast.
Triumph Gulf Coast, that's what it is. It's a state-run nonprofit that distributes the Horizon money. And Jason's done a workman's job over there with that. That can get pretty political at times. So if you would, we've asked Jason to come and give us a little legislative update, certainly on business issues. Jason's life report card from Associated Industries will tell us that he votes 100% with business. I mean, 100%. Some people suggested we get a local delegate to give us a business update. The rest of our delegation runs into 70% range. So Jason, one, is local, and he's got a 100% rating. So we're very happy for him to be here, and we'll invite you back, okay? Come visit with us, Jason.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot of kind words said, and Jeff, you just don't tell anybody any other thing, and we'll be good. The time I spent before I got into politics was all around small business. That's all that I lived and breathed every day. In fact, I never imagined in a million years that I would get involved in politics. That journey started with working with our local Port Authority and trying to develop it to bring in more businesses and more jobs and help an economy that was really run down after the paper mill closed in Port St. Joe. The time that I volunteered on that Port Authority ended up leading to the Triumph Gulf Coast that Rocky mentioned, and I did resign from that when I got into the legislature, but that organization does tremendous things to help the economy of North Florida recover from the oil spill and now from COVID. But I'll tell you, in many ways, this session was a big win for North Florida. We kept our state open thanks to our governor. We got folks back to work. We cut taxes and we passed a balanced budget. And there's only, for those of you familiar with the legislative process, there's only one mandate we have each year, and that is to pass a balanced budget. So we got that done with a few things added in there. The budget includes many funding projects in our region. We were able to get money for local groups, local hospitals, of course our universities. I found out yesterday, I heard yesterday along with all of you, that we now have a new president at FSU. Another big win for all of you is the announcement yesterday from DEO that they were doing away with the extra federal payments, because if you're like me, yeah. That is the number one thing I hear as I travel around my district. And just to tell you a little bit about my district, it's 10 counties. It runs from Gulf County over in the west and Calhoun all the way over to Lafayette County in the east. And so we have coastal communities, we have agriculture, we have small business owners, and just a good mix of what Florida is really made of. When it comes to policy, we took a stand this year. We took a stand for common sense, for freedom, and for family values, and for defending our rights. All of you know I am a Republican, I am a conservative, I am a Christian, I'm a father and a husband, and those values are intertwined with everything that I do, whether it be in small business or whether it be in politics. This year we passed an anti-riot legislation. I'm sure all of you heard an awful lot about that. House Bill 1 was about law and order. Contrary to critics, it truly was about protecting our First Amendment rights. We wanted to send a clear message that violence would not be tolerated here in the state of Florida. Florida's law enforcement officers risk their lives every single day to keep us safe, and we stand with them, and we wanted them to know that. As Americans, we have the right to peacefully protest. It's a fundamental freedom that makes us who we are. But the key word there is peaceful, and you have to do it peacefully. We passed voter reform this year. SB 90 strengthens voter identification, prohibits the mass mailing of ballots, it bans ballot harvesting, and it prohibits private money from administering elections in our state. We must continue to strengthen the integrity of our elections. It is the most important thing. Career training is my absolute personal passion for those of you that know me. That's what I ran on. That's what I every year of filing legislation to strengthen. It's something that will help probably everyone in the room in your businesses. That's why this year I co-sponsored House Bill 1507 that helps Floridians gain the training that they need to pursue a good career through apprenticeship programs. I believe in the apprenticeship program. It is something that we have to continue to work on to meet the needs of business owners. Sometimes in government we create something that sounds good in paper, but when we go to implement it, it doesn't exactly work right. And so we've spent a lot of time talking with business owners and ways to improve that apprenticeship program. And I hope that all of you will have an opportunity to tap into that one day. I just believe that everyone should have a chance at a career, and it starts at school. It starts with our children. Studies show that it starts as early as third grade in teaching them computer skills and programming. For those that don't want to go to college, we are missing opportunities every day to train them with a skill set so that they can enter the workforce immediately. We also started a conversation this year, and I really got a lot of, I guess, got a kick out of it because it needs to happen. It's long overdue. But that conversation started, and I intend to work on it moving forward, where we stop as a state subsidizing dead-end career paths that end with a mountain of student loan debt and no career in sight. Not to say that those programs are bad, but when we're taking student loan debt out and burying ourselves, our children in debt, to take courses like that, like basket weaving, we're doing a disservice to them and setting them up for failure. Finally, we were able to cut taxes this year. That's something that I know all affect every one of you. The business rent tax is something that we are trying to target every single year. We were able to take some funds from the online sales tax and put that towards unemployment so that your rates will not go through the roof. I know that was something we were expecting after COVID. So that was a big win this year for that. But I know that you know how to spend your hard-earned dollars much better than the government does. And so this year we were able to secure $200 million, a little less than $200 million in tax savings for families and businesses in Florida. I'm proud of these and also many other measures that the legislature passed this year, from environmental conservation to passing an expansion of school choice. I know that topic back and forth, and you as parents should have the right to use your tax dollars to send your child to the school that they need to be at for them to thrive. And so I'm proud of our governor, I'm proud of our state for leading us in that direction, and I know that it'll pay off dividends for the state in the future. It's my commitment to continue to work for you, for the business community, for the independents, for the large companies, for the employees, for everyone in Florida. When we get our goals right and we work together, everyone wins from that. And you can't win unless you have a strong economy and strong small businesses. So again, I want to thank all of you for what you do. You make everything else possible around here, and you provide the jobs, you take the risk, you stick your neck out and work those long hours. And so thank you for what you do. So contrary to what was said earlier, I'm trying not to ever be long-winded, but what I would like to do is go around the room and ask you your opinions, your thoughts on things that I can work on this coming session. Believe it or not, we just finished session, but we go ahead and start again. It takes a while to put together policy or iron out details in appropriation requests, and we start that now. And so if you have any good ideas or anything you'd like to see your delegation do, or me, let me know, and we'll take notes. And who knows, it may be something that you see in the form of a bill next session. So we can start over here, and yes, ma'am.
Sorry, we go with the microphone, that way the camera can pick them up. Go ahead.
You got it.
I'll kick it off. Thank you, Representative, for being here and giving us an overview. I don't think that many people understand that this is your first term that you just got completed with. Since we're a bipartisan organization, if you could talk about how bipartisanship was important and where you saw it work best for the constituents and small business, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you that the things that we read about in the paper, the things that we see on our news channels, are usually federal or state issues, and those rarely are bipartisan. We've seen it's getting more and more partisan, as a matter of fact. But what I have seen locally with our local delegation, with Ramon and Allison, we have worked together very well. And I'd say 90% of the issues that come up that we address for our region, we all agree on and work together and enjoy working together. So bipartisanship is alive and well on these hometown issues. Unfortunately, we have a big divide to heal when it comes to big ticket items. Any ideas, any suggestions, any thoughts? Barney?
Yes, thank you, Representative, for being here today. One of the things that has really become an issue lately is education, pre-K through 12. And there have been, the governor's come out in favor of defunding critical race theory and 1619 project items like that. There was a story yesterday that one of the 9 most elite private schools in all of Manhattan has just put a course for pornography literature on the curriculum. And so we're all concerned about the children, our children. We're all concerned about the future and them being indoctrinated in public schools. And so I was just curious to know if that would be an issue perhaps that we could work with you on, because it's one that's very important to all of us to make sure we want to have diversity of thought and diversity of opinion, but at the same time we should only be teaching things that are factual, not that are made up.
Thank you, Barney, and that's a good suggestion. We did work a little bit this year on sex ed in schools and making it to where the parents opt in and get a copy of the literature, the curriculum, before it's shown to their children, so that the parents can be involved in that conversation. And that's just one step, but we have a long way to go. Doug?
Actually, I'm going to drill down and it might end up leading to an idea, but you talked about the workforce. I know you serve on the committees relative to that. In the apprenticeship programs, and I couldn't agree more. I know several business owners who are literally turning 7-figure contracts down because they just don't have the workers, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, you name it. I think in having, my kids are at Child's High School, which I would say is, probably like a college prep, and beyond several of those not school. What I was understanding was that the biggest block is actually in a lot of cases the parents themselves, right? My kids go to college because that's what they do and that's what we're going to do. So I didn't know if there was anything that y'all had thought about or any way to sort of flip that, because I think it's a lot of time, and I've seen it personally, it's just that's the parents of the block. So anything that can be done to kind of cut through the, besides continuing to send them plumbing bills when they need one?
Well, and that's an excellent question, and I really, as I said earlier, this is my personal passion, this topic, because it means something to every single person, whether they know it or not. And Doug, you're right. Studies show that a lot of the problem comes from the parents, and we see that on both sides. You cannot force a child to go one way or the other and expect a successful life, a successful, complete package, whether it be through their career success or their mental health or their overall quality of life. Those children are going to go. They need to be encouraged to go to where their passions are. Some kids want to go to college, and we have a lot of tools in place to help that. Other kids don't. They want to be a small business owner, and maybe they want to take a college course. Maybe they want to take certain courses that are only going to help them achieve their goal, and they don't want to go through the entire package. And that's much more affordable. And so those are all things that we can do as a state, and things that I will continue to push for. I would love to see really a micro package, the certifications, I think they call them, but set it up where if you want to be a small business owner, maybe you can sign up for a block of classes that really get the ball rolling. You can take those, go take that certificate, get a good job somewhere, work a few years, and then decide if you want to open your own business. Or you can go back and stack those credentials with further education. But at the end of the day, we must give them those tools from an early age to be able to go and receive that training and go out and get those jobs. One other thing that I mentioned earlier that's really killing us are these federal dollars that keep pouring in and incentivizing people to stay at home. I was telling Rocky earlier, in the gas business, we haven't had any employees leave or go home. We tell them every one of them are critical, and you can't go home. But we didn't experience that problem. But what we have seen is people coming up and saying, "Hey, my cousin just got a job at wherever for $20 an hour, and they just started with no experience." Well, what does that do to the people that are working at 18 an hour or 19 an hour or 20 an hour that have been there for a couple of years? It's not right, and it has been subsidized and inflated artificially, and all of in business, that doesn't end well when we do that. So thankful that that's gone. That's the second part of that.
Is the legislature doing anything to attract new and emerging industries to Florida? Like I had heard for the last few years that we were trying to bring the hemp industry to the North Florida counties that were devastated by the hurricanes and stuff. What are we doing to attract or bring in new industry and emerging industries to Florida?
Well, that's a great question. It goes back to really a fundamental belief that Florida has expressed for a number of years, that we are one of the number one destinations in the country, and therefore we're not going to be throwing money around left and right to beg people to come to Florida. It doesn't mean that we have to take the exact same approach here in the Panhandle, because, as all of you know, we're very close to Georgia and Alabama, and they are very aggressive with their funding. We see a lot of good businesses creating hundreds of jobs that end up going to Alabama or Georgia because of those incentives. So that's a long way around your question, but there aren't a lot of programs that the state specifically are using to go after hemp. We do have some help for that, and through Department of Agriculture, we provide them with a lot of technical assistance and a lot of training and a lot of help with that. But that really comes down to the question of, do you believe that government should be using incentives or not, picking the winners and losers in that?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here with us today. My question is about minimum wage. Obviously, it's on the way. The changes are, and I don't know if there's been any talk about what might be done to help address that, or address the people on fixed incomes that are going to be impacted on that seem to have been missing from the discussion when they were passing?
If I understand your question correctly, what is the state going to do about minimum wage?
In terms of the economy and the
Mhm.
impact of all the businesses and the rising labor costs and therefore the cost of everything else and the people that are living here on fixed incomes.
And their ability to sustain their lifestyles because their cost of living is going to go up.
Well, immediately I'll tell you that we're going to have to brace for inflation. That's the first thing that's going to knock us silly. Every time, again, the government gets involved with artificially propping up wages, we end up in trouble. And there is no game plan that I've seen specific to that question, other than what we do every day. We address these problems as they come. We work through each one of them, and oftentimes the first thing we think of is, well, let's file a bill or let's do something. I'm of the mindset that government is not the best way to fix problems. There are things we can do to create a backstop or checks on that, but I think that we're going to see the business community and the economy react the same way it has every time we've seen an artificial infusion or artificial manipulation of our economy.
Jason.
Mhm.
Catherine, I got one. Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
What do you hear, or have you been involved any at all with our Amazon project, which is going to be a real game changer if our city and county actually let it come out of the ground?
I'm sorry to say I'm not involved with that, but anything that I can do to help the city and county, I'll be happy to help them with it.
Don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay?
Any suggestions?
On the business side, or the insurance hat in the ring, there was a lot of back and forth on the insurance legislation this year, not only on the property rate changes, but also on the COVID situations. Not sure if you can speak on any of that, but from the COVID liability standpoint, that was what we were looking at from a protection of businesses, because I don't know if a lot of business owners were actually aware of some of the back and forth that was being discussed at the legislature level, and protections being put in place to help them somewhat safely operate, I guess you could say.
No, and I appreciate that question. We had a looming disaster coming towards Florida at 100 miles an hour. The stories we were hearing of lawsuits beginning to back up in the system, or the amount of trial lawyers that were going around and starting to try to figure out how can we get reparations to you for catching COVID at Walmart or at the gas station or at the restaurant or at Mays Monroe. And of course, you can't, COVID doesn't work that way. You can't go and specifically say, we know you caught it at this gas pump at this day at this time. It just doesn't work that way. And so the state of Florida decided that we were going to be proactive in this issue, and we passed legislation that gave an awful lot of immunity to business owners as long as you take good faith efforts to keep your customers safe. Then you are going to be immune from any liability on that. That was one of the first priorities passed in the House, and something that I know at my business gave us a lot of relief. We were very concerned with, do we reopen the lobby? Where's the first lawsuit coming from? And so I'm proud of our governor and I'm proud of our legislature for making that a priority this session. Yes, sir.
That question made me think of another question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing ads on TV about PIP and this, whatever the bill is, that on automobile insurance. Could you explain that, please?
Well, I will tell you that I hope the governor will veto that bill. That bill was going to take away the personal injury protection or whatever that was. I'm not an insurance guy, but what Florida has always been is a no-fault state, where, as I understand it, So you go and get in an accident, doesn't matter whose fault, both insurances will deal with that in the background. So that's going away, but what I do know about it and what I drilled down on, because it was going to directly impact my constituents disproportionately, was that it was going to cause the minimum required coverage to, I think, double, was my understanding. And so you're looking at those that can least afford it, having their insurance rates nearly double. Now, for those that have full coverage, a good, what they call healthy coverage, it could cause those rates to go down. But at the end of the day, in North Florida here, I felt that it was very important to oppose that piece of legislation until we can work it out to where either we phase in those increases over a longer period of time, or we come up with a better solution for that.
How long does he have to veto that? When's that?
It depends on when it's laid on the desk.
Jake, yeah, thanks for coming, Rocky. You're wonderful. My question is this: in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, in comes a pile of South Florida attorneys filing people's claims from Port St. Joe, really all the way across Franklin County, all the way over to Panama City. And as a result, the casualty companies have suffered huge, billions of dollars of losses from trumped up cases from some of these homeowners and stuff. And it hit you hard there in Port St. Joe. My fear is that everybody, we're all going to share in these damages to these insurance companies with much higher premiums on real estate we own, homes, businesses, whatever. Was this issue addressed at all in the legislature this year? And is there any stricter requirements we make to our insurance codes so that we don't get these trumped up damage suits where somebody claims $2 million of damage and really there was only $300,000 or $400,000 to an alleged house or business?
No, and I appreciate that question. First thing I'll tell you is that I'm a gas guy and not an insurance guy, but I am fully expecting all of our rates to go up. That is not something that we hit head on this session, but something that I know we're going to be working on this session coming up. I definitely appreciate you bringing that up, and that's something that I'll get together with Will and see what suggestions he may have about how the state can handle that. Any other questions or suggestions?
One more, Jason. So what about environmental issues, water quality, things of that type? What did you see passed that you thought was very important for us here in North Florida?
Well, a lot of the legislation that we focused on this year was based on sea level rise and based on conservation down in South Florida. We've had a terrible run at this blue-green algae. The most important thing I would say here in North Florida are protecting our springs and getting continuing to put dollars out there to go from septic to sewer. Septic really produces much more of our problems than agriculture. I can tell you the systems that the farmers have in place today are excellent, and they take the brunt of that blame, but that's misplaced. It's really a septic tank issue here in Florida. So to answer your question, that is where we passed this year legislation to help with those issues in South Florida, to also protect our springs, and we continue to fund the septic to sewer program. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
We got one more question.
Oh.
Just one, real quick. I live in Jefferson County. We just recently went through the toll road situation over there. I don't want a toll road running through my backyard, but at the same time, Mark Wilson was here not too long ago talking about 1,200 people a day moving to Florida, 900 staying. Infrastructure-wise, what's the latest on how we're going to handle all this population growth in the state of Florida?
Well, first I would challenge the numbers. We're seeing the results of the census, and it's not ironing out it's not matching up exactly with that figure. But yes, we have a lot of people moving to Florida, absolutely. The toll road, in my opinion, was not the right answer to that problem. Highway 27 its utilization rate was under 30%. So, and it runs right through the backbone of where that toll road was supposed to go. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think any of you would replace your roof if it was only 3 years old, and so that part just didn't make sense. So what we were able to do with that piece of legislation that you asked about was gut it, really kill it, but we're still keeping some of the funding around to help with infrastructure. We're going to make improvements to current roads instead of bulldozing new roads. And I think in the future, I'm hoping at least, that we will continue as a legislature to make good choices on how we spend our tax dollars when it comes to infrastructure, hurricane evacuation routes. One of the local issues I'm working on is continuing the 4-laning of 319 into Leon County. That project has been plagued with delays. So DOT has promised me that we're moving forward and moving quick now, so we'll see. Also looking at 4-laning other north and south corridors across North Florida, so that when we do have a hurricane, evacuating isn't going to be as big of an issue, and we won't hear as many of the excuses of, well, I didn't want to get caught in traffic. That's a safety issue, and we have to open up those roads. So, thank you. Mr. Rocky, appreciate you.